When my millionaire fiancé witnessed a heartbreaking betrayal, his response was unthinkable. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air crackled with tension. I stood there, frozen in time, as the world around me faded into a blur. My heart raced, each beat amplified by the suffocating silence. His eyes, once soft and warm, now blazed with a fiery intensity that sent chills down my spine. I was clinging to hope, trying to hold tight to the pieces of my life. Just days before, we were planning our dream wedding. Beautiful gowns, lavish venues, endless laughter. I felt invincible. But that day, it felt like the ground opened beneath me. I could taste the salt of my tears, hot and acidic, as I watched betrayal unfold in front of my very eyes. The sky was overcast, a heavy gray blanket that reflected the storm brewing in my heart. The cold wind whispered my fears, wrapping around me like a shroud. My best friend, Lily, stood there, her eyes wide with disbelief and shock. It was supposed to be a simple dinner, a celebration of our engagement, but fate had twisted our plans into something unrecognizable. In that moment, everything I thought I knew turned to ash. The clinking of crystal glasses suddenly sounded deafening. I could feel everyone's eyes on us, judging, speculating. Was Lily really the person I thought she was? My mind spiraled into chaos. I wanted to scream, to run, to rewind time. Yet, all I could do was watch as her laughter mingled with the growing tension in the room, forming a cruel symphony that echoed in my ears. Mark, my fiancé, was standing there, paralyzed. Fear morphed into rage, shadows danced across his face, and I felt a tightness in my chest as I imagined what he was thinking. The look in his eyes, it was something I had never seen before. A fire so fierce, it could consume everything in its path. Would he lash out? Would he understand? The secrets exchanged between them hung thick in the air, suffocating me. Every heartbeat was heavy with dread. With trembling hands, I reached out to him, but he recoiled, startled, as if I were a stranger. "How could you?" he rasped, his voice breaking the silence like glass shattering on the floor. The words carried a weight that hung in the air, suffocating me. Time slowed as a multitude of emotions crashed over me: pain, disbelief, horror. The gallery around us felt unsettlingly distant, yet intimately close, whispering and gasping in surprise. "Can you believe it?" someone murmured. "It's scandalous." Their voices were a buzzing swarm, drowning out my thoughts, leaving me in a pit of despair. Then it happened. An unthinkable reaction. My heart stopped as I saw Mark's hands clenching into fists. The air thickened, an unspoken promise of chaos. My mouth went dry, and a lump formed in my throat. Would he confront her? Would he confront me? I wanted to disappear. I looked desperately from Mark to Lily, trying to grasp the whole truth of that moment. The room felt like it was caving in around me. The walls echoed with gasps and whispered judgments from our friends. My beloved was crumbling. In his eyes, I saw confusion, betrayal, and a flicker of something dark. Then the words slipped out of my mouth: "Mark, wait." But the chasm between us felt insurmountable. The anger radiated from him, hot and combustible. It wasn't just his future I could feel being torn apart, it was mine too. And just when I thought it couldn't get worse, a shadow flitted across Mark's face. I steeled myself for whatever was to come. "You have no idea what you've unleashed," he muttered, dark and foreboding, and then his eyes locked onto mine, filled with a storm of questions that left me breathless. What did he mean? What did I do wrong? I felt the air press against my lungs, crushing me under the weight of words left unspoken. I couldn't escape this nightmare. As the silence swallowed us whole, I realized how quickly my life had shattered. I was standing on the edge, teetering between love and betrayal, and I had no idea which way I would fall. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The room had become a cage, the walls closing in with every fleeting second. I could feel the weight of their stares, each one piercing through the fabric of my already frayed reality. Mark's fury simmered beneath the surface, palpable and alive, igniting a fear so profound it shook me to my core. I had never seen him this way before. It was as if the man I loved was slipping away, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. As I stood there, frozen, I wished more than anything to rewrite that moment, to drag us back to the happy times filled with laughter and dreams. But there was no escaping the demons that danced in the shadows of our love now. Lily remained silent, broken, her eyes darting between Mark and me, yet I could sense a flicker of regret buried deep within her facade of indifference. "Get out," Mark hissed, his voice low but filled with a chilling finality that rattled my bones. It wasn't directed at me, it was aimed at Lily, but with every syllable, the air felt dangerously charged, perpetually teetering towards a cataclysm. Time seemed to halt, and for a fleeting moment, I dared to hope that reason could prevail, that maybe compassion could stitch our tattered hearts back together. Lily slowly stepped back, her expression a mingling of disbelief and shame. "Mark," she started, but he would have none of it. "Just go. I'm done listening to your lies." His tone chilled the air between us, each word a dagger that dug deeper into my chest. As she hurried away, the silence enveloped us, heavier than the thick layer of sadness in the room. My breath quickened, and my heart ached. In that moment, I wanted to scream, to pour out all the emotions that roiled inside me. Instead, I could only watch as the woman who had once been my closest friend slipped away, taking part of my heart with her. "Mark," I began, my voice trembling. His eyes snapped to mine, filled with a whirlpool of hurt and betrayal. "You don't need to say anything," he interjected sharply, but there was a vulnerability in his stare that cracked my resolve. Did he want to hear my side? Would it even matter? "Just let me explain," I pressed, hoping to breach the dam of silence trapping us in this emotional whirlpool. But he gave a quick shake of his head, his fists still clenched, his breathing ragged. The moment stretched painfully as he locked eyes with me, the world around us fading into nothingness. There was a flicker, just a hint of the warmth we once shared, which momentarily softened the edge of his rage. "You should have told me," he murmured, the steel in his voice wavering. But then, with a harsh laugh that didn't reach his eyes, he turned away, retreating to the far corner of the room where shadows shrouded him like a dark cloak. My heart shattered again, splintering under the weight of his rejection. "I wanted to protect you, Mark. I thought it would keep you safe," I finally admitted, my voice cracking, tears spilling down my cheeks, desperate to bridge the chasm that had formed between us. His back remained turned, and I could only stand there, haunted by the sudden disconnect. Was it too late? Had the betrayal blossomed into a truth that could never be unspoken? Suddenly, from the corner of my eye, a figure approached cautiously from the gathering crowd. "Hey," Kyle said softly, his voice barely above a whisper as he stood beside me, his presence both comforting and grounding in that whirlwind of emotions. I turned to him, shocked by his unexpected kindness. "You're not alone in this," he added, an empathetic gaze softening the harsh reality of the moment, but I felt so utterly alone, even among friends. "What if I lose him?" I whispered, the despair pooling deep within my chest. A flicker of sadness crossed Kyle's face, a reflection of all that we were losing. "You won't know until you talk to him," he urged gently. The hopefulness in his voice clashed with the turmoil in my heart. "I don't know if he'll listen, or if he even wants to." My throat tightened as I recalled the words that had cut through me just moments before. As if he sensed my turmoil, Kyle reached over, squeezing my shoulder. "You owe it to yourself to try. He deserves to hear you. There's always a chance," he said. I searched his face, desperately wanting to believe in that chance, but the memories of Mark's anger loomed like a dark cloud, blocking out any glimpse of light. "I'll try," I promised, my voice barely above a murmur, but inside I felt an ember of determination flicker to life. Just then, I caught sight of Mark again, his silhouette still brooding in the darkness, aloof and unreachable. But before I could take a step toward him, my phone buzzed insistently in my pocket, pulling me back. Confused, I fished it out and noticed a message blinking on the screen. My heart raced as I read the words, my pulse quickening with every letter. It was from Lily. "We need to talk. I can't keep this to myself any longer. There's more you don't know." The weight of those words settled in my stomach, heavy and foreboding. What could she possibly mean? What other secrets lingered in the shadows? I looked toward Mark, a storm swirling in my heart as everything collided into one chaotic moment. What awaited me next could change everything. The air crackled with tension, a palpable electricity hanging between the unsaid words and unexpressed feelings. My mind raced as I clutched my phone, the screen still glowing with the enigmatic message from Lily. I felt the world closing in around me, choices circling like vultures over the remnants of my shattered trust. The sight of Mark, still a shadowed figure in that dim room, reminded me that I couldn't delay any longer. "Kyle," I said, my voice barely a whisper, "I have to go. I need to see what she means." He nodded, concern etched across his brow, but I could see his uncertainty. Those moments stretched, as if the universe was holding its breath, waiting for my next move. Before I could lose my courage, I stepped away from Kyle, making my way toward the exit, my pulse quickening with each stride. The hall stretched before me, the shadows creeping in closer, reflecting the chaos swirling within me. As I approached the door, a sense of dread washed over me. Would this conversation shatter any remaining bonds between us, or was there a chance Lily could reveal something that might save me? Stepping into the night, the cool air hit my face and brought clarity mixed with fear. I hurried down the street, my heart pounding as I replayed conversations, laughter, and moments shared, each memory more precious than the last. The path felt both familiar and foreign, tainted by the uncertainty that now colored every corner of my life. A sudden flicker of light caught my attention. I looked up to see Lily standing outside a small cafe, her figure illuminated under the soft glow of a street lamp. She appeared fragile, caught in the web of her own choices, but there was something resolute in her stance. I hesitated for a moment, the weight of our friendship and the recent betrayal swirling in my mind. Would she take responsibility or deflect again? "Lily," I called softly as I approached, my words trembling on the cusp of their delivery. The moment I uttered her name, she turned, her expression a mixture of dread and determination. "I didn't think you'd come," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, as if she was afraid the wind might carry her words away. "I have to know what you meant." "About the secrets," I insisted, taking a step closer. Each gesture, each breath, seemed fragile as we stood on the precipice of change. "I need the truth." Lily looked down at her feet, biting her lip, the vulnerability so raw it made my heart ache for her. "I was scared," she admitted, her voice breaking. "Scared of what this would mean for all of us. I didn't know how to say it without destroying everything." With every word, I felt the foundation of our friendship teetering at the edge of an abyss. "You already destroyed it, Lily. How can you expect me to trust you now?" Her eyes glimmered with unshed tears, but her expression held a stubborn defiance. "You have to believe me. I came here tonight to confess I never meant to hurt you. But there's someone else involved." I felt a chill race down my spine, heat creeping from embarrassment to anger. "What do you mean, someone else?" She ran a trembling hand through her hair, her voice trembling. "Mark isn't the only one in the dark about what happened. There's a lot I didn't tell you about Brad." The name hit me like a physical blow. Brad, my old colleague who had recently reappeared in our lives. The pieces began to fall into place in a way I hadn't anticipated. "You and Brad?" I breathed incredulously. "What does he have to do with this?" The desperation in her eyes deepened. "He knows about the situation, and he has motives of his own. I was going to tell you everything, but when Mark found out, it just spiraled out of control. There's something he's hiding, too. Why should I believe you? I shot back, my heart racing with betrayal and disbelief. You've lied to me before. I know, she replied, her tone turning urgent. But you have to understand. I'm not the only one tangled in this. You need to talk to Mark. He has a secret that weighs on him too. It's bigger than just the two of us. My mind reeled, trying to grasp the enormity of her words. Here we stood, drawn together by mistakes and regrets, teetering on the edge of mutual destruction. But could I risk believing her again? Lily, what if you're wrong? I'm not. But the truth, it can't stay buried any longer. Her voice cracked, revealing the tangled fear that had held her captive for too long. Suddenly, the evening air stirred, and I pulled back, uncertain about the weight of her revelations. Please just think about it. Before it's too late, she implored, the tremor in her voice betraying the depth of her fear. As I turned to walk away, the night pulled me deeper into the web of decisions ahead. Should I confront Mark, risking further heartache and upheaval? Or could I trust Lily enough to navigate this labyrinth of secrets together? The echoes of choice spun in my mind as I stepped into the darkening street, my heart heavy with uncertainty, only to hear footsteps approaching rapidly behind me. My stomach sank, tightening with instinctive dread as I turned around. There, in the distance, was Mark, his expression a storm of conflicted emotions. Where are you going? He called, his voice fierce yet trembling, an echo of the unresolved confrontation still hanging between us. I glanced back at Lily, who stood frozen, lost in a whirlwind of her own making, and took a deep breath. It seemed I had no choice but to face this head-on, knowing full well that the truth awaiting me might shatter everything once and for all. The air thickened with tension as I took a cautious step toward Mark, who was advancing with urgency, his eyes locked onto mine. The street lamp illuminated the shadows on his face, distilling his fierce determination and raw vulnerability into a piercing gaze that demanded answers. I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of secrets and the prick of tears that threatened to spill. What were you doing with Lily? Mark's voice cut through the night, and I could sense the smoldering intensity of his frustration. The world shrank around us, the bustling street fading into a mere backdrop to the emotional storm brewing before me. Just talk, I managed, my voice steadier than I felt. She had some things to explain. About everything. The awkwardness of our relationship, a mix of pain and longing, hung in the air between us like smoke that refused to clear. You should have told me if you were meeting her. I don't want you involved with her, you have no idea how twisted this all is, he replied, shifting uncomfortably as if the ground beneath his feet was crumbling. There was an underlying fear beneath his fierce exterior, and it began to chip away at my anger. She says there's something you're hiding too, Mark, I pressed, not wanting to back down now. Something connected to Brad. Is it true? For a moment, Mark's stoic facade cracked, revealing a glimpse of uncertainty. What do you mean? I took a step closer, trying to catch the glimmer of truth in his eyes. Lily says you know more than you're telling me about their past and the situations that developed. I need to know what's really happening. All of it. An emotion flickered across his face. Was it guilt? A pained memory? Just as quickly, it was gone, replaced by a steely resolve. There are things we can work through, but this? It's more complicated than you realize. My heart began to race with conflicting emotions, the years of trust and love teetering on the brink of overwhelming betrayal. It doesn't matter how complicated it is, Mark. I can't be part of this if there's a truth that's being hidden from me. You can't expect me to walk away without answers. Just when I thought Mark might break under the weight of his own revelation, a chilling silence enveloped us. The hollowness in his eyes cut deeper than any words he could have spoken. It was as if the heart-tugging warmth I had once felt in his presence was evaporating, leaving behind only the echoes of discarded trust. Look, there's something I've never told you about Brad, he said, his tone dropping to a whisper, laced with an urgency that made my stomach churn. Before he left, he and I were close, too close. I didn't think it was important until now. I felt the ground shift beneath me as his words sunk in. "What are you saying?" I asked, the tremor in my voice revealing the chaos in my mind. "What do you mean you were close?" Mark stepped back, running a hand through his hair, his frustration palpable. "I can't just lay it all on you like this. Not here. Not now." I didn't think it mattered after he disappeared, but his reappearance changes everything. I thought I had put that behind me. A confused sense of urgency tightened around my chest. "Did you have feelings for him?" "No. I mean, I don't know. It was a complicated friendship. Nothing ever happened." His words tumbled around us like loose leaves caught in a brisk wind, defying any attempts at clarity. "Then why would it matter now?" I pressed, feeling raw and vulnerable. "Why does any of this change anything between us?" "Because it makes me question everything." The intensity in his voice was mesmerizing and terrifying. "I can't let you into this dark history without addressing my past. It doesn't only involve secrets about Brad, it connects to Lily too. Everything is tangled." Just as I was about to respond, a loud shout suddenly pierced through the air, drawing our attention. I turned, startled to see Brad himself strolling towards us, an insufferably charming smile plastered on his face, not a care in the world. I stumbled backward, trying to process the sudden shock of his presence. "What are you doing here?" I asked, feigning bravado that he stopped short, hands held up innocently. "I was just passing by." Didn't he mean to interrupt whatever late-night bonding you two are doing? "Although, your faces don't exactly scream joy," he grinned, his expression masking a deeper intent that sent shivers down my spine. Mark's expression shifted instantaneously, morphing from surprise to simmering anger. "We don't need you here, Brad," he stated, his tone sharp enough to cut through the tension like a knife. "Come on, that's no way to treat an old friend," Brad teased, stepping closer, the air thickening around us. His gaze darted between Mark and me. After all, we were all so close once. The coldness of his words sent a shockwave of fear racing through me. In that moment, I understood the web of emotions and connections that had been left unspoken, the shadows looming dangerously over each of our lives. "Get out of here, Brad," I said, my voice firm and raw with unease. "You have no right to be here, not now." He smirked, the devil-may-care attitude only growing bolder. "But I do, don't I? There are still secrets that haven't been told. And it's time everyone realizes that once you start digging, you might just unearth things you're not prepared for." As the darkness swelled around us, carrying the weight of revelations yet to unfold, my heart raced, caught between long-held love and the sinister ties that seemed to bind us tighter with each passing second. "Mark, we need to leave now," I urged, sensing the urgency flare in my veins, but as we turned to leave, I noticed a fleeting glimmer behind Brad's bravado and emotion that suggested he held a piece of the puzzle, something dark that could undo us all. With my heart pounding louder than ever, I braced myself for the truth, knowing that whatever came next could change everything. The night air felt colder as I turned to Mark, who remained fixed in place, rage flickering in his eyes, amplifying the pulsating fear within me. "Mark. Please, we have to go," I implored, but his gaze was locked onto Brad, as if the world had narrowed to that single point of tension. "Are you really going to let him talk to you like this?" Mark shot back, tension crackling like static in the air. Each moment stretched painfully, the hollowness of an unspoken truth hovering between us. "Mark, this isn't about him. It's about us," I said, desperate. I stepped closer, but he pulled away, the distance between us growing wider than it ever had before. "Us?" he repeated, his voice loaded with skepticism. "You were the one meeting Lily behind my back. How can I trust you now?" The accusation stung, deeper than I could have anticipated. "I was trying to find out what she knew. For you. For us." The words tumbled out, raw and unfiltered. I thought we could face this together, but I can't help if you keep shutting me out. Brad's laughter sliced through the tension like a blade. Oh, come now, don't paint yourself as the good guy in this story. You've been in the chaos just as long as anyone else, he taunted, and my stomach churned at the insinuation. Mark's expression flickered, a fleeting moment of uncertainty flashing across his face. You think you know everything? He snapped at Brad, anger seeping into his words. You don't even understand what's at stake. Really? I think you underestimate what people are willing to do when secrets are threats, Brad replied, his smile fading as his calculated facade slipped momentarily. There's a whole world beneath the surface, Mark, and you might find yourself in deeper trouble than you've bargained for. The tension hung in the air thick enough to feel it creeping into my lungs. I caught Mark's eye, searching for any sign of the man I had fallen in love with. He seemed to hold the weight of 1,000 unshed tears in his gaze, and I felt the connection we had, the love we fought for, slipping further away with each passing moment. I don't need you to preach about what's at stake, Brad. You're the walking embodiment of it, Mark responded, his fists clenching by his sides, anxiety radiating off him in heavy waves. With every word exchanged, I felt the rift between Mark and me expanding, a chasm I feared we might not bridge again. Please, I said, my voice trembling as I reached for his arm, desperately wishing to pull him back from the brink. Let's just go home. We can figure this out together. Mark hesitated. The vulnerability in his eyes made my resolution falter, urging me to fight for the pieces of us that were still left. I want to believe that he finally murmured, but his eyes darted to Brad, who was all too keen for the chaos unfolding. Isn't that sweet? The two of you against the world, Brad taunted, a sinister glint returning to his gaze. But the truth is something you both might not be ready for. I held my breath, feeling as if the walls had closed in around me, trapping the words Brad was so eagerly withholding. The way he spoke suggested that not only did he know secrets about Mark, but also about Lily and perhaps about me. I swear, if you don't shut up, Brad, Mark growled, wavering between fury and self-control, his temper threatening to boil over. Go on, threaten me, Brad said, stepping closer but maintaining a calculated distance. But just know that beneath all these false pretenses and hidden truths, I can give you answers. Answers that might save you or destroy you. Each syllable stroked the flames of unease simmering in my chest. Panic fluttered like a trapped bird in my heart. I glanced at Mark, conflicted yet desperate for clarity. Do you want to hear what he has to say? As I posed the question, a part of me feared the answer could fracture any hope we clung to, but another part craved the truth like a fleeting lifeline in a whirlpool of secrets. The lines on Mark's face softened for a moment, torn between protective instinct and hunger for the truth. You're not being serious, he said, disbelief edging into his voice. You can't honestly want to listen to him. Maybe if we hear him out, we won't be caught off guard again, I reasoned, a headache building in the wake of unanswered questions. If there's a chance to untangle the mess, isn't it worth exploring? The moment stretched, heavy and suffocating, until Mark finally sighed, the tension coursing through him revealing a heartbreaking vulnerability I had longed to protect. Whatever he has to say, let us hear it. But remember, this doesn't change what I feel for you, he said softly, his eyes holding the fervor of a promise that both comforted and terrified me. Brad grinned, the unsettling smile of a harbinger of strife, slipping into his role with ease. Oh, I'll give you truths, indeed. But let's just say, they might go deeper than any of you expect. And with those words, an ominous weight settled upon my shoulders, intertwining despair and an urgency that propelled us toward an unavoidable confrontation with our pasts, one we had no choice but to face together. The night felt endless, filled with the echoes of generational heartbreaks, buried secrets, and emotional ties that neither of us could escape. As we stood before Brad, the tension electric and raw, I could almost hear the ticking clock of fate pressing us onward. And just as anxiety tightened my grip on Mark's hand, I realized our lives would never be the same once Brad opened his mouth to expose the darkness lurking behind our every choice and every love we thought to be safe. A sudden thought struck me. I had no idea exactly what revelations were about to be hurled our way, but for the first time, I felt the haunting shadow of doubt curl around my relationship with Mark. And then Brad spoke, shattering the silence in a way that made my heart drop and my breath snag in my throat. Did you know you weren't the only one who loved Brad? There are others who are deeply entwined in this story, and you might just be the last to know. I stood frozen, the words hanging heavily in the air like a suffocating fog, a persistent dread seeping into my bones. The look on Mark's face shifted from anger to confusion, a vulnerable mix that gnawed at my insides. Who? Mark's voice was strained, a low rumble edged with uncertainty. What are you talking about, Brad? A calculating smirk played across Brad's lips, relishing the moment as he stepped closer, the shadows dancing menacingly around him. Oh, you'll have to forgive me, I don't want to spoil all the fun for you. But let's just say, your little love story isn't quite the fairy tale you think it is. My heart raced, spiraling between fear and anger. Stop playing games. Just tell us. I practically shouted, anxiety clawing at my throat, desperate to drown out the nagging sense of impending doom that lurked behind every word spoken. You really think you and Mark are special? Brad laughed, the sound cold and jarring against the stillness around us. There are strings attached to your love, my dear. Strings that bind you to people who aren't supposed to be in your lives, at least not anymore. Mark's grip on my hand tightened, his knuckles turning white. I could feel the tremors within him, battling against the chaos threatening to engulf us. Just say it, Brad, he growled, indignation flaring through him, but underneath it lay an undercurrent of fear I had never perceived before. It's not just about you two, you know. Brad shrugged, mockingly dismissing our pain. There are connections that flow through your lives, choices made long before you two even met. And they aren't just echoes of a distant past. No, they coil around you, tightening as you grow closer like a noose. I swallowed hard, trying to ignore the darkness creeping along the edges of my thoughts. I couldn't let this be the undoing of what we had. We can work through it, Mark and I, whatever it is, we will face it together. Mark didn't respond, his gaze piercing through Brad, searching for an explanation but coming up empty. That terrible silence thrummed like a heartbeat, reverberating with unanswered questions and the terror of the unknown. I suspect you'll both be familiar with Ryan, Brad said, his voice lower, the name hanging like mist, chilling and poignant that it struck me like a cold wind. Ryan? The name locked itself in my throat. What does he have to do with any of this? My grip on Mark's hand loosened, the panic creeping in again. But that's the crux of it, isn't it? Brad drawled, savoring my growing distress. Ryan's been watching you both from the shadows. Curious little creature, isn't he? Just a respecter of your timeline, yet poised to crash into it like a tidal wave. As I looked at Mark, his expression tightened, fear igniting behind his hardened demeanor. No. This can't be true. Ryan's gone. His voice wavered, and it struck me that deep down, he might not be entirely convinced. Gone. Brad echoed, his tone mockingly sympathetic. I wouldn't be so quick to celebrate. There are secrets deeper than oceans. The danger? It's what you don't see that will finally cut the strings. A visceral chill crept up my spine as I thought of Ryan, the memories swirling, tender yet tainted. He was a ghost from a past I thought I had laid to rest. I had barely found my footing with Mark, and now I felt the floor cracking beneath me again. Stop! I cried, holding on to Mark as if I could anchor him or myself. What do you want? Want? I want it all to unfold. And trust me, it will, in due time. The truth is a relentless tide. His response dripped with malicious delight. You'll see how intricately tied to each other you really are. The truth will weave its way into your lives, suffocating you until the choices you've made come crashing down. Mark's silence spoke volumes. I felt the barrier thickening, a fracture line running deep between us, even as he clutched my hand, his own trembling. "I won't let that happen," he finally said, his voice resolute yet trembling slightly, an echo of doubt underlying his fierce determination. Suddenly, a thought pricked at the back of my mind. What if it's not only Ryan? What if Lily is connected too? I murmured, the realization like ice spreading through my veins. Faces began to blur together. I could see the web tightening around our lives, waiting patiently for the moment to ensnare us completely. Brad tilted his head, intrigued by my insight. "Oh, darling, you're sharper than I thought. But not quite there yet. The connections run deeper, much deeper. There's a lineage, a generational support system rooted in shambles of betrayal that utterly binds you. And what you've got going here, it won't survive, especially when the truths emerge." Each revelation landed like a heavy hammer, reverberating uncertainty through my bones. I felt dizzy, like I was riding a wave of chaotic revelations, each crashing over me with increasing frequency. It left me gasping for breath, fighting against the riptide threatening to drag me under, and in that moment, as Mark's eyes bored into mine, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to shatter us both irrevocably. A flicker of doubt bloomed in my heart, one that had the potential to ignite 1,000 heartbreaks. What if I'm the one to unravel it? I whispered, fear clawing at my insides. But as I looked into the depths of Mark's gaze, it became a familiar echo, warning and a promise intertwined. There might be no way to outrun the impending storm that seemed destined to consume us. As we stood there in the shadow of Brad, the sinister puppeteer pulling our strings, the undeniable truth began to take shape, a truth I wasn't sure any of us could survive. And just as I prepared to voice my concerns, a single dark thought crept forth, seeping through the cracks of my resolve. What if this web of secrets was already too late to escape? What if the darkness was not only looming but had already found its way into our hearts? The very floor beneath us felt unsteady, and I knew that no matter the bonds we had formed, shadows of the past could devastate our future. And as Brad's smile widened at our despair, I began to wonder if we had already lost our way. The night stretched on like a canvas painted in shades of dread and uncertainty, darkness clinging to every corner of my mind. Mark's grip remained strong, yet the warmth that usually radiated between us was growing cold, the air thickening with unspoken fears. I couldn't shake the feeling that with each revelation, the distance between us was being drawn tighter, as if the shadows were fabricating a chasm that would one day swallow us whole. "Come on," I murmured, trying to project strength as I pulled Mark away from Brad's taunting gaze. "We need to talk. Just the two of us." But even as I said this, a gut-wrenching anxiety twisted inside me. What was there left to say that hadn't already been tainted by Brad's poisonous words? We moved a few steps away, each one feeling like a monumental shift in gravity as Brad's laughter faded behind us, the echoes lingering like a curse. My heart pounded in my chest as I scanned the dimly lit surroundings, the world feeling utterly distorted, and all signs of safety eroding away with every beat that I turned to Mark, whose features were set in a grim facade that made my chest ache. "Tell me you don't believe him," I urged, my voice low but trembling. "Whatever connections he claims exist, we can face them together." Mark met my gaze, his eyes casting shadows across his face. "I want to believe that. But it's Ryan, Jess. How can we just brush that aside? He's been a ghost, haunting me even in my happiest moments with you. I thought I left that behind, yet here it is, crawling back to the surface." Pain wove through my heart as I registered his struggle. Ryan had been a lingering specter in our relationship, the name invoked visions of past wounds that had yet to heal. Brad had clawed at the edges of our fragile happiness, pulling memories that were supposed to remain buried into the light of day, and now they threatened to engulf us both. "We have to confront it," I said, my voice trembling with urgency. "Everything Brad said, it's meant to tear us apart. We can't let it win." Mark huffed a bitter laugh, his frustration crystallizing into a palpable force between us. "It's not just you and me anymore, Jess. The stakes are higher than we imagined. He didn't just drag Ryan into this, it's Lily, it's our past lives that are intertwined in ways we never understood. I don't want to hurt you, but the truth, what if it rips us apart? My heart sank further, the weight of his words heavy on my chest. What do you want me to say? That I'll walk away. I refused to let him control our narrative. The fire in my voice felt like a flicker fighting against a deluge, small yet determined to persist against the tide of despair. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the periphery, briefly catching my attention before retreating back into the night. My heart raced. Was it a trick of the dark, or someone watching from the shadows? Mark's voice, thick with concern, pulled me back. This isn't just about us anymore. The uncertainty etched into his expression cut deeper than any accusation Brad had flung. I know, I admitted, fighting against the knot of fear tightening around my throat. But it doesn't mean we can't hold on to what we have, what we can fight for. His eyes reflected a storm of emotions, caught in a whirlwind of love and uncertainty. I reached out, brushing my fingers against his cheek, willing him to see the truth that surged between us, a connection that even shadows of the past couldn't sever. The moment felt electric, the air buzzing between us, but before I could tease a smile from his lips, a voice shattered the fragile bubble of hope. Is this a private party, or can anyone join? The familiar tone cut sharply through the humid night, sending icy tendrils wrapping around my heart. I turned, realizing too late that I recognized the voice. Ryan. That he stood just at the edge of the light, hands shoved casually into his pockets, the shadows casting a brooding aura around him. There was a tension in his stance that felt like sharp glass against my skin, and I instinctively took a step back, searching Mark's face for an answer. What do you want? Mark demanded, his voice fraying at the edges, laced with equal parts anger and betrayal. Ryan smirked, his expression annoyingly nonchalant. Oh, don't act like you weren't expecting me. Funny how things can unravel so quickly, huh? Looks like you two might need a little guidance. A chill pervaded the air, the threat in Ryan's words hanging heavily. With Brad's taunt still echoing in my mind, I felt the ground shift beneath us, thrusting us deeper into chaos, a raw point of vulnerability laid bare. What do you mean? I challenged, a voice of bravado masking my deep-seated fear. That he took a measured step forward, the flicker of mischief in his eyes replaced with something colder that sent shockwaves up my spine. Let me help you understand the strings that bind. You're tangled in a web, and it's time to figure out how to cut them before they choke the life out of you both. As Ryan's words sunk in, I locked eyes with Mark, the weight of unpreparedness crashing down around us. An insidious realization slithered through me. This wasn't just about Brad and his twisted games. The past was resurfacing, and it threatened to obliterate everything we had fought to build. And in that moment, as time stretched unbearably, I was left grappling with a chilling thought. What if the very people who claimed to love us were also those who carried the most treacherous of secrets? The ground shifted again under our feet, and before I could catch my breath, I sensed the strands tightening, a noose ready to enact its grim fate. With Ryan's presence alone, hope felt as fleeting as smoke, elusive, ephemeral, and at that moment, all-consuming. The heaviness in the air thickened, transforming the night into a suffocating veil. As I stared into Ryan's eyes, a cocktail of dread and urgency boiled in my veins. Mark's grip on my hand tightened, a silent promise woven into the fabric of our shared touch, but the fear in his eyes spoke volumes more than words ever could. Ryan, stay out of this, Mark said, his voice low and burning with barely contained rage. I could see the muscle in his jaw flexing, the predatory glint in Ryan's gaze gnawing at his composure. Oh, but I can't, Ryan replied, feigning innocence, not when you're both so blissfully ignorant of the real game at play. Besides, I thought truth was your goal. Aren't you both curious to know what's waiting just beyond these shadows? He took a sinister step closer, tension crackled like electricity, lashing out into the space between us. You think this is a joke? I forced my voice steady, though it trembled like a brittle twig on the verge of snapping. You're just leveraging our past to twist the knife deeper. You'll only hurt us more. Ryan leaned back, his smirk unfaltering. What if I told you I'm not your enemy? What's really strangling your love? Isn't me, it's the lies and secrets you choose to ignore. You want to fight for each other? Then come with me, and I'll show you the truth that you've been running from. Mark's brow furrowed, conflicted emotions wrestling within him. Why would you help us? You thrive on chaos, Ryan. On the contrary, Ryan said, tilting his head, I thrive on clarity. And what's clearer than the truth laid bare? Ask yourselves, is your love strong enough to handle it? My heart raced, sensing the precipice we were standing on, the darkness lurking beneath ready to swallow us whole. Mark shifted next to me, his body almost radiating as a shield, yet I felt the cracks forming, with Ryan standing just outside arguing his case, breeding doubt like an infection. What if it cuts deeper than our hearts can handle? I pressed, the urgency flooding my voice, turning frantic. What if the truth destroys us? It could. Or it could set us free, Ryan countered, his tone shifting from mocking to eerily sincere. But you'll never know unless you take a leap. If your love is real, it'll survive the revelation. Only you two can decide, keep trusting the lies or embrace the truth. Silence stretched like a taut rope, the weight of possibility hanging heavily in the air. I looked deep into Mark's eyes, desperate for a flicker of recognition, a silent call urging him to hold on just a little tighter, to our love, to hope, against this tide of uncertainty. Jess, Mark started, his voice trailing off, burdened with the weight of decision. What if he's right? What if we need to know? Maybe it's time to confront the past. No, I said firmly, shaking my head, desperate to cling to the remnants of what I believed we had. Maybe it's time we learn to let go and not keep stirring it up. The past is just that, the past. Ryan laughed softly, a sound that echoed like shattering glass. You think by ignoring it you're doing yourselves a favor? But history doesn't fade, it festers. Let me show you what you're missing. Before I could argue further, the air around us shifted abruptly, pulling away the ground beneath our feet. A blinding flash erupted from Ryan's phone, and my heart raced in a mix of fear and apprehension as he brought it closer to his face, revealing a message sent just that moment. Look at this, he said, his voice suddenly gleeful, the game just got loud. With a swipe, he cast the screen toward us, revealing a photo, a candid snapshot taken at the cafe where Mark and I shared our first kiss, a distant shot capturing us in a moment of pure bliss. But that wasn't what sent a chill racing down my spine. That was the caption beneath, a string of words that made my insides twist painfully and disorientingly. I'll be watching. This isn't over. Mark's eyes widened, heartbreak mingling with confusion, as he turned to me. What the hell is this? Who sent this? And why now? I had no answers, only the numbing realization that someone was entwined in the shadows, pulling strings, and perhaps, orchestrating more than we could comprehend. The evening had morphed from strained conversations into a terrifying web of threats and unguarded truths. Suddenly the streetlight flickered above, creating a strobe effect that distorted reality, distracting me long enough to momentarily forget the looming danger when a shadow moved once again across the corner of my vision. Ryan! I called out, pointing, but he was one step ahead, already moving away to confront whoever else lurked outside our fragile bubble. I turned to Mark, frantic with urgency. We can't let him go alone. What if it's another trap? Maybe it's a trap we need to face, Mark breathed, the resolve creeping into his voice underlined with despair. If we're going to fight, we need to know what we're up against. Together. With every pulse in my heart screaming for him to turn back, I locked eyes with Mark, the battle between fear and fierce loyalty waging within us both. Biting my lip, I felt the tumultuous swell of emotions bubble towards the surface. Was I ready to plunge into the unknown? Ryan approached slowly, darkness weaving around him as if inviting something malevolent to rise from the depths of our past. Before I could take a single step, a masked figure emerged from the fringes, their features obscured and body poised in defiance, a chilling reminder that the shadows were gathering, and whatever secrets lay ahead threatened to consume us all. And just like that, a desire for answers ignited within, a desperate need to reclaim power amidst uncertainty and a foreboding sense that, no matter what lay ahead, Our lives were spiraling towards a confrontation neither Mark nor I could fully grasp yet. The truth, whatever its form, could crack open our hearts or shatter them entirely. The wind howled through the alleyway, an eerie reminder of the world outside our fragile bubble. My pulse quickened as the shadowy figure stepped into the dappled light, the creases of their mask casting twisted shapes of foreboding onto the ground. I instinctively leaned closer to Mark, his warmth a reassuring presence against the encroaching chill of fear. "Who are you?" Ryan demanded, his bravado wavering for the first time, the challenge in his voice a thin veneer over a tremor of uncertainty. The masked figure tilted their head, a soundless laugh echoing in the silence, and then a gloved hand reached up, revealing a glimmer of silver and knife, its edge catching the dim light as they turned toward us. The gesture was disconcerting, a stark reminder that this night was spiraling into a nightmare. "Do you really want to know what's waiting for you?" The figure rasped, their voice low and menacing, yet filled with a kind of dark invitation. "You're standing on the precipice of a revelation that could change everything. Just step closer, and the truth will unfurl before you. Get away from us." I cried out, instinctively stepping in front of Mark as if my body could somehow act as a barricade against the chaos that was about to follow. But the figure just laughed, a sound that echoed like a swarm of insects buzzing in the twilight. "You don't even know how deep the lies run." They pointed the blade toward Ryan. "And you? You think yourself the puppeteer, but you're merely a pawn, playing into something bigger than yourself." Ryan flinched, casting a glance over his shoulder as if feeling the weight of 1,000 doubts pressing down on him. "Enough of this cryptic nonsense," he snapped, frustration lacing the edges of his words. "You're not here to enlighten us, you're here to scare us. Why don't you just show your true face?" With a rapid motion, the figure turned to me. "What do you really believe, Jess? Is your love for Mark pure enough to face what's buried beneath the surface? Or is this just another game, another distraction?" I felt as though the ground beneath me shifted. "What do you mean?" I demanded, but my voice was tinged with uncertainty. Fear of the truth is a feeble excuse to stay rooted in the shadows. The hedge of ignorance won't save you from what's growing inside, they said, forcing Mark and me to confront a reality I feared was already upon us. Someone has been playing both sides, orchestrating this all along. What's that supposed to mean? Mark's voice trembled, revealing a crack in his stoic facade. "It means," the figure leaned in closer, the blade gleaming ominously, "that someone you love is keeping secrets. Someone is betraying your trust, and when the truth bursts forth, it won't be Ryan lurking in the shadows anymore. It'll be someone among you." I felt my heart sink as though a heavy anchor had been cast deep into the ocean of unknowns beneath us. Glaring past the figure, I searched for Ryan's eyes, looking for reassurance, a glimmer of clarity, anything to anchor my swirling thoughts. Instead, their gaze shifted between us, their confidence faltering for the first time in our tangled dance of uncertainty. "Leave," Mark growled, breath coming in short bursts as he took a step forward, shielding me with his presence as anger flickered across his expression. "We don't want any part in your twisted game." "You're already in it," the figure replied with a mirthless chuckle, then raising the knife just slightly higher, a flash of madness in their eyes. "You all are. And only when you confront the twisted web that's been spun can you begin to play for real." Before I could pull Mark back, Ryan moved, lunging forward in a reckless, desperate attempt to wrestle control. But in a heartbeat, chaos erupted. The figure's knife flashed, and my instincts kicked in, tearing through the haze of shock. "No!" I screamed, diving into the fray, but it happened so quickly, a brutal connection, the sound of flesh meeting flesh echoed deafeningly, and then there was a gasp. Mark, a physical force yanked me backward, and I watched in horror as Mark staggered, his hand clutching the fabric of his shirt where crimson began to bloom like dark roses against the white. The world blurred around me as his eyes met mine, shock and pain mingling within their depths, and then I felt torn apart by the edges of reality and despair, the icy fingers of terror gripping my heart. "Jess!" he rasped, the word barely escaping his lips, filled with a desperation that cut deeper than any blade. A whirl of futile chaos enveloped us as Ryan lunged again, but the masked figure melted back into the shadows, their laughter carried on the wind like a mocking echo. The truth is coming, Jess. You won't be able to hide from it forever. Choose wisely. And then they vanished, leaving me breathless, the air thick with an unbearable weight of anguish. My heart raced as I turned back to Mark, who was slipping slowly to the ground, the world around me fading to an echoing hum, drowned by the chaos of my own rising panic. Mark! Stay with me! I cried, dropping to my knees, my hands pressing against his wound as if sheer will could somehow stop the bleeding. Please, just hold on. You can't leave me now. But as I felt the warmth of his blood between my fingers, the weight of his gaze began to fade, and despair clawed viciously at my chest. Was this the moment everything spiraled out of control? Would I lose him before we even had the chance to discover the truth? The night stretched endlessly around us, the shadows closing in like a suffocating blanket. All hope hung teetering on a fragile thread, and I felt the abyss yawning wide, ready to swallow us whole. With shaking hands, I pressed down on Mark's wound, feeling the warmth of his blood seep through my fingers, a stark reminder of the fragility of life. Stay with me, Mark. Please, don't close your eyes. My voice cracked, each word tinged with disbelief and dread. I could hardly comprehend the reality of this moment, most of all, the thought of losing him, a thought so harrowing it threatened to consume me whole. His breaths were shallow now, his gaze flickering between consciousness and the intoxicating darkness that beckoned him. Jess, he murmured, his voice a mere whisper, laced with pain and a longing that tugged at my heart in ways I had never experienced. Don't let go. I won't. I promise, I desperately asserted, my heart hammering against my ribs. In my worst nightmares, I had never imagined this scenario. You're going to be okay, just hold on. I pressed my palm against the wound with all my strength, desperate to stop the blood from spilling out and taking him away from me. But the world around us felt like it was spiraling out of control. Feet echoed down the alley as a flurry of voices approached. My heart raced as relief mingled with dread. Who would arrive now? Who could intervene in this chaotic mess? A pair of familiar weighty footsteps drew closer, and just as I looked up, Kyle rounded the corner. His expression morphed from confusion to horror as he saw Mark's crumpled form. What happened? He shouted, racing to my side, dropping to the ground beside me. His eyes widened, terror replacing the relief I had wished for. Mark, stay with us, buddy. The medics would arrive any minute. They had to. Mark was strong, wasn't he? Just hold on, Kyle knelt beside me, panic flaring in his eyes as he assessed Mark's condition. You need to apply more pressure. Jess, look at me, focus. I could hear the tremors in his voice. I'm trying, I insisted, my voice breaking. But it's too much. My tears fell freely now, landing on Mark's face as I cradled his head in my hands. I can't lose you, Mark. I can't. Yet as the shadows danced over his features, I could see the flicker of something behind his eyes, a fight hidden deep within him. Remember, our future, a life together. I need to see it, Jess. His voice faded, soaked in weariness, as if faint whispers of hope hung like a fragile thread. Every word he spoke felt like the final straws, so I leaned in closer, laying my forehead against his as my heart pounded in my chest. Then fight, Mark. Fight as if tomorrow depends on it, because it does. You are my everything. An awkward healing silence descended between us, where time seemed to escape us. The vibrant visions of our shared laughter filled the void. For the first time, as I whispered words of love and hope, I felt the warmth ebbing from his body slowly begin to stir. Promise me, you'll keep fighting, he said, his eyes fluttering open for a brief moment before closing again. Of course. I promise, I vowed earnestly. As those words echoed in the air, filled with anguished despair, I prayed I could carry that promise forward. Just hold on. With a surge of urgency igniting inside, I could feel the arrival of medics at the edge of the alley. But as they rushed toward us, a sudden realization crashed over me like a tidal wave. I had to unravel the secrets buried between us as much as I had to save him. "Mark. Please." I shook him gently, wishing for his warmth, for his signature teasing smile that always lit up the room. Every second felt like an eternity as the medics worked swiftly beside me. Suddenly, a voice broke through the cloud of tension. "Mark. Can you hear me?" A medic placed a hand on his shoulder, shaking him gently. It felt unreal. I was grasping at straws, desperate for something, anything. The medic's eyes filled with urgency. "We need to get him stabilized. Stay focused, Mark. Mark, remember the beach?" I begged, heart racing as I recalled our last vacation together, how he proposed, the sun kissed our skin as we laughed over ice cream. All the plans we made. The dreams we built together. You promised. You wouldn't leave. Look at me. For a brief moment, I could sense a spark in his body, a flicker of connection waiting to ignite again. The pain on his face relaxed. He was coming back to me. His voice faltered, but there was a hint of that familiar light beginning to glide across his features. "It's okay," I reassured him. "Just keep your eyes on me." And as the medics worked around us, in that moment, I suddenly recalled everything Brad had said. The connections, the intertwined destinies, the reminders lingering in the shadows, the truth that never had the chance to unfurl. In a surge of strength, I commanded through the chaos. "Kyle, get Lily. We all need to come together, everyone, to face the truth." His brow furrowed, confusion and fear evident on his face. "What? Right now?" Without hesitation, I nodded decisively, searching for Mark's gaze once more, pleading with my eyes. I could see him wading through pain and darkness, but also purpose. "They can help," I whispered urgently. "We can find a way to fight this. Together." And just as the medics loaded Mark onto a stretcher, I realized that in this moment of despair lay the embers of hope, the dichotomy of light and shadow intersecting at the boundary where love thrived. It simmered beneath the chaos, waiting to spark. "Jess." Mark managed to gasp, his eyes flickering between open and closed, an intangible tether binding us across the divide. "I'll fight for us, just get through tonight." "Always," I murmured, my heart bursting with a raw determination, one that reflected back through every memory shared, each laugh, each joy, each moment yet to come. As we were rushed away, headlights flooded the night, illuminating my path forward, a path not just drenched in fear, but one tinged with fierce resolve. Revenge, retribution, it didn't matter now. All that mattered was the love we fought for together, the truth we had held too long beneath an ocean of secrets. Tomorrow was still waiting for us, and I would be damned if I let darkness steal away what we had left. "Today we fight," I whispered to the universe, each step carrying us closer to the light invisibly woven through our lives. I took a deep breath, standing on the precipice of change, knowing that whatever came next, I would face it with Mark by my side, our intertwined fates breathing life against the odds, love still blazing like a beacon in the night. And with every frantic heartbeat echoing in my chest, I could sense the promise enveloping me like a divine embrace. No matter the truth awaiting us, it would light the way to redemption. Together, we could face it all.